All right, let's take a look at deployment models for Amazon Bedrock. And I just want to make it clear that there is requesting access to a model, and then there's the actual deployment of a model. And if you come from something like, again, Azure AI Studio, deploying a model is very, very clear. Whereas in AWS, sometimes you aren't aware that you have a model deployed, but for the most part, it doesn't matter because the majority of models have a serverless offering. So like they're on demand, but we'll talk about it here in a moment. So there are two types of deployment models. The first is on demand. So I would rather call this serverless because that's exactly what it is. And provision throughput. So this to me is more like on demand, but the idea is that you are basically spinning up servers. But again, it's abstracted away so it doesn't feel like servers, right? Maybe it's containers or something. But let's talk about on demand. So these are models where you're paying based on the input and output tokens. This is how Amazon Bedrock mostly does its costs with these on-demand ones. It's input and output. And this is different because other providers don't do it. They just do it based on the amount of tokens generally. But I mean, this is basically the same thing, but the cost could be different on those two things. So example of a on-demand one would be Cohere Command R+. So you might be paying here a fraction of a penny per 1,000 input tokens, right? Or for output, it might be different, but the amount is different. So you can see that there is some variation here. You can track token usage in the Amazon Bedrock Playground. So I think we show that in the labs where I scroll down and I show you that. And also you can capture token usage information in Amazon CloudWatch logging metrics. And I absolutely have a hands-on lab where we don't do it, but I already have it set up and I just show you that what the information would look like. Then you have provision throughput. So here you're paying based on model units. So it's like, think of like Fargate, like serverless containers. They're abstracting away the actual server. So in a sense, this is also serverless, I guess. So maybe my my wording up here is not clear because they're both technically serverless. But I think of this one as serverless on demand because it scales down to 0, whereas provision throughput you're paying for as long as it's on, and that's why I wouldn't call it truly serverless. But the idea here is that you will say, okay, I want to provision this throughput. So you're spinning up compute that is managed by AWS, and it will give you an estimate. And at that point, they'll try to ask you, like, do you want to have any kind of commitment terms so you can have a reduced cost, or how many model units do you need? So hopefully that is pretty clear. There's other things that we can do with deployment. I wouldn't call these deployment models, but it's just other ways that you can work with on demand. So we have batch inference. So this is for non-real time. We could say offline bulk processing. So maybe there's a tiny model that you can utilize and you just want to send it a bunch of stuff and get a bunch of stuff back. And so this is, again, for select small models, which is very similar to other cloud service providers. Then you have cross-region inference. So route the request to multiple AWS regions during peak utilization bursts. And at this time, I've only seen it. Now, I might be wrong here because at the time I made this slide, I did not turn on all the models, but for the most part, I only saw it for Anthropic Cloud. And so this could be dependent on the infrastructure, right? So maybe Anthropic has coded it this way, whereas maybe Cohere hasn't. And so just understand that it might vary, but it might not be true that it's only available for that. Not all models are offered in both deployment models. So, Cohere, I only saw it on demand, whereas Amazon Titan, I only saw it with provision throughput. And when I say Amazon Titan, I'm talking about, I should be very specific here because it's light or express is what that is there, because Premier actually is on demand. So again, it's just me making a mistake in the slide here and just quickly correcting it. But yeah, there you go. Okay.